17 or 18 years ago, I was a doctoral student at Arizona State University, taking a course in the sociology of everyday life taught by Dr. Bob Snow. The central subject of the class was how people behave in routine situations, how we know that situations are routine, and how do we adapt to everyday life changes. I had to commute 155 miles each way from Flagstaff, Arizona to take the class, and occasionally my wife would drive down with me. On this particular evening, she came with me to class. The discussion that evening focused on the everyday life barriers that middle-class suburban residents faced in riding the bus. The buses followed schedules and routes that would meet the needs of commuters, but suburbanites still wouldn't ride the bus. Dr. Snow suggested that one of the great barriers to success was that these suburban residents didn't have the everyday life skills necessary to ride the bus. They didn't know how to stand in line for the bus. They didn't know how to read a schedule. They didn't know how to sit across the aisle from a young man with a big purple mohawk who was glaring at them. As we drove home late that evening, my wife turned to me and said, "You're getting a PhD in how to ride the bus." And for years, my wife has teased me about this issue. But our trip to Germany last year convinced her that the everyday life knowledge people need to ride public transportation actually was a worthy topic of study. Skip ahead to the present day. I arrived at the Albuquerque, New Mexico airport yesterday to attend the Western Social Science Association meetings. I went to the transportation desk to ask for help for the cheapest way to get to my hotel. I was expecting advice about some kind of shuttle service, but instead the nice man told me I could take bus number 50 for $1, and it would take me within a block of my hotel. That advice sent me on a fascinating journey. No big, dangerous adventure. I rode the bus for 20 minutes and was dropped off at my hotel right on schedule. What was fascinating was the variety of people I met riding the bus. The first was a man in his 50s or 60s with a small suitcase who showed me where to line up. He was catching the bus to take him to the light rail station. The train there would take him from Albuquerque to Santa Fe. He told me he was trying to live without owning a car, taking the bus or train, riding his bike, or walking. I told him about my sociology of everyday life class, and much to my surprise he responded by saying, "Oh, so you must have been reading Erving Goffman," which of course I had. But who would have expected to be talking about sociological theory with a stranger on a bus in Albuquerque? It turns out the man was a lawyer who had been working on justice issues in Afghanistan for the last several years, and he had just returned from there to New Mexico. Another gentleman got on the bus as we talked. He is dressed in ragged clothes and has an untrimmed beard. The lawyer and I start talking about my research in community radio, and the man with the untrimmed beard chimes in with the comment, "I have one of the old radio telephone licenses from the FCC." Back in the 70s and early 80s, everyone who was in broadcasting had to have a third-class license in order to be on the air. I had one back when I was in college. This got the three of us talking about FCC policy on low-powered radio broadcasting. All too soon, it was my stop for the hotel. Who would have thought that my cheap bus ride from the airport to my hotel in Albuquerque, New Mexico, would turn into an in-depth discussion about the sociology of everyday life, Erving Goffman, and FCC rules on low-powered radio stations? Yes, my dear wife, I do in fact have a PhD in riding the bus.